In an authentic hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrated to his companions, "Inna lillahi ahlin minan nas." Allah has His own people among mankind. So the companions asked, "Man hum ya Rasulullah?" Who are they ya Rasulullah? And Rasulullah replied, "Hum ahlul Qur'an, ahlullah wa khassatuh." They are the people of the Qur'an, the people of Allah, and those who are closest to Him. Subhanallah. Just imagine being one of the special ones in the sight of Allah. Those are the ones whom gets the help and guidance from Allah, and the ones who are successful. But it begs the question, as a person juggling many roles and responsibilities and hard-pressed for time, as we are, most of us nowadays, just where do we begin in building a sustainable relationship with the Qur'an and starting our journey towards becoming the people of the Qur'an? In our previous episode, number 8, we explored the big whys and shared our personal stories in our journey with the Qur'an to inshallah get us motivated and inspired to get back on track and reconnect with our lifetime journey with the Book of Allah. And in this episode, we continue inshallah with the same theme, but focusing on the hows. What are some practical tips that we can instantly apply as small steps to inshallah get us going towards becoming the people of the Qur'an? Welcome to the Barakah Effect podcast, the weekly podcast where we dissect the gems from the Qur'an and the Sunnah to turn it into our unfair advantage to gain success in the here and the hereafter. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video to spread the khair inshallah. And do hit the like button if you found it to be beneficial. Barakallah fikum.
ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ahlan wa sahlan, brothers.
Ahlan.
MashaAllah, how are you guys doing today?
Alhamdulillah, perfect.
Alhamdulillah,
Looking
excellent.
sharp today actually. Everyone has a new haircut. MashaAllah. Barakallah
Ramadan.
Ramadan
Yeah.
preparations, huh? MashaAllah.
Yeah, we're recording this before Ramadan, but by the time it's released, it's after. So the context is we're doing this to minimize hair maintenance in Ramadan.
Yeah, that's one tip. Perhaps everyone can follow next Ramadan, perhaps. And ahlan wa sahlan to our dear listeners. Welcome once again to the Barakah Effect podcast, where we attempt to extract pearls and wisdoms from the Qur'an and Sunnah to try and use it to our unfair advantage towards living the best life in the dunya and the hereafter. So today we're going to continue where we left off with last week's topic, which is part 2 of the topic on building a relationship with the Qur'an as a busy person. So last week, I can recall that we had a very insightful discussion on especially the whys, the reasons why building the relationship with the Qur'an matters in our lives today. And the brothers mentioned various benefits of having the Qur'an play an integral role in our lives. And we even shared each of our personal stories on our relationship with the Qur'an, which I found to be very inspiring on a human and very practical level that each of us can relate to, because each of us has our own journey with the Qur'an, and each of us has a very personal journey with the Qur'an, and at different points of our life, different various times in our lives, the Qur'an acts as a source of inspiration and continuous guidance for all of us. So, mashallah, I really benefited from that sharing session, especially.
Yeah, same here.
Mashallah.
MashaAllah.
In this episode, what we really want to focus is the continuation of the previous topic, which is actually the juice of the topic on what we want to discuss is how everyday Muslims like me and you can practically build a long-lasting and meaningful relationship with the Quran, despite all our other roles and responsibilities. So before we get into the hows, the details of today's discussion, we just wanted to recap on last week's topics or any additional new topics on the previous points to really set the scene for our discussion today. So I would invite the brothers to do a sharing with for the points for today. So, firstly, I would like to invite Brother Faisal.
Okay. I'm quite surprised. Normally, when I do that, I go last, right? So culture shock now. I get a taste of my own medicine. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So one of the things that is to set the scene for this discussion is that the Quran is the basis of all knowledge, right? Any Islamic subject you learn, even any secular subject you learn, the criteria will always come back to the Quran. So even if you're gonna, like in our lives, yes, it's understood that we're gonna have ups and downs, but the point is this: even if you're gonna slack once in a while, you fall into this slump of your ibadah and seeking knowledge in certain area, make sure you don't compromise on the Quran, because this is the number one knowledge that everything comes back to. Even when it comes to hadith, even when it comes to memorizing matan, like the contents of the books, which is what a lot of students of knowledge do, ultimately it all ties back to the Quran itself. So if you have to prioritize, make this as your priority. Now, sometimes that's what I see. People are so caught up in learning so many different Islamic subjects and sciences. They learn fiqh, they learn hadith, sirah, and mashallah, all of these are excellent. But unfortunately, sometimes because they study what they like, what they enjoy, it kind of makes them neglect the Quran, right? So always try to find a means to continuously integrate this as part of your daily life. Now, I want to share a quote by Ibn Taimiyyah, rahimahullah, the great scholar, Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taimiyyah. And he was known for many great things. He wrote volumes and volumes of books. He was very well known for debating and conversing with heretics and deviant sects. He's a very well known scholar. He went to participate in jihad even against the oppressors. And all these books that he made continue to be major references until this day. But towards the end of his life, he made a statement. He says, "I have regretted wasting my life on things other than the meanings of the Quran."
MashaAllah.
Subhanallah.
This is the teacher of Ibn Qayyim and
Yes.
Ibn Kathir.
Ibn Kathir.
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Very good
Yes.
point. The teachers of great scholars, Ibn Kathir, Ibn Qayyim, and many, many more.
Many more.
This was a scholar who trained many scholars. His biggest regret was that he was wasting time on things other than the meanings of the Quran. Wow. So
Inshallah.
all of us should think about this quote and reflect it on our lives. How much of our lives do we really spend to understand and get to know the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Which really comes back to the setting point of where we are today, right? Now, let's admit, all of us have this feeling of guilt with respect to the Quran. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
All of us recognize that we need to improve our relationship with the Quran. Shaitan knows this. So what will he try to do? He will try to manipulate that feeling of guilt. He will keep pounding you and say that, you're useless. What kind of Muslim doesn't read the Quran? You've neglected the kalam of Allah, you hypocrite. And this will make you feel like giving up. This is what shaitan does. This is what Allah describes. لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. This is the shaitan likes to make the people who believe, the believers, feel sadness in their hearts. And this sadness sometimes makes you feel so guilty to the point where you're unproductive. So you don't want to do anything because you feel like a hypocrite. Now you have to fight these feelings, right? Don't give in to this. So number one, you have to be aware of this shaitan's tricks and plots. And you have to have that self-awareness to fight this. This is from shaitan. This guilt, you should use it as a means to motivate you. Now that you recognize that you're in this slump, you have this feeling of guilt, because the Prophet ﷺ says, "An-nadam tawbah," that guilt is tawbah. Aw kama qala alaihi salatu wasalam. If you use this feeling of guilt in a way that's productive, it can push you to do many, many great things and to drive that motivation, right? So stop beating yourself up. Use that guilt to take action. Pick yourself up again and take the small steps. This is something we discussed in the episode of the slump, right? Take the small steps. Don't take it in all at once, right? Because this can break you. And also, as we also said in the episode of the slump, don't allow shaitan to make you like reminisce in those glory days of Ramadan. MashaAllah, you used to recite one juz per day, you used to do tafsir, maybe multiple juz per day. But look at you, one page, you useless fella. No, 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 no. You have to fight that, right? No, fight it. Just get back on track. If half a page per day is all you can do, Bismillah, that's great. 2 lines, it's a start, right? Don't allow yourself to beat yourself up. Remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the deeds that are most beloved to Allah are those done consistently, even if they are small. So just start as practical as possible, but do it consistently. I read about this in the book Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's interesting, right? Every time when you want to start a new habit, or even if it's like to pick up a new habit which you've lost, right? Maybe you've gone through the slump. So maybe after Eid, maybe you've slacked off a little bit, right? So the initial stages that you want to start a habit will always be the most difficult. It will always require the most willpower. And it's interesting that they did this experiment with rats actually. So when they wanted to train rats with a new thing, the beginning, the brain scans were huge. Like it was very stressful for them. But after routine habits, it became less and less and less and less, and it became automated. It became a subconscious action. You don't even have to think about it. So that's the thing about Quran. When you want to start that habit, and not just about reciting, also about reading, about learning the tafsir, learning tajweed, about the entirety of the habit of Quran, in the beginning, it will always be difficult. Recognize that. There's a very famous Chinese proverb. Have you heard this proverb before? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with
Single step.
one step, right?
Yep.
That's an interesting perspective, but there's something underlying it. They're saying that the first step is always going to be difficult. So you recognize
inertia.
The inertia, that's right. You got to move that thing, right? It's called the flywheel in the book Good to Great. I reference that a lot. So yeah, in the flywheel. Yeah, remember that chapter?
MashaAllah.
Yeah, the momentum you need to turn that flywheel, that first one, it's really, really tough.
Yes, I remember this point. Yeah, MashaAllah. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you build it and then it starts moving. Yeah, step 1 is going to be inherently difficult. So just take that step, inshallah. So that's it from me, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Just to extract one point from that regarding the after Ramadan phase, right?
Yeah.
The pitfalls that we usually fall into after Ramadan, that we think that we've done a lot in regards to the Quran. We've recited the Quran throughout the whole month, perhaps many times over.
Yeah.
And we think, may Allah protect us, we think we did well, subhanAllah. But the point here is that we think that that's part for Ramadan. And then after Ramadan, okay, I should look forward to something else. But actually, it's not the case.
Okay, so the mindset is like you close the book for that month and then move on, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Perhaps because we are exhausting ourselves in Ramadan, and that we want a fresh outlook. But the point here is that the Quran is a continuous aspect in our life that we should not neglect at all, as Brother Faisal mentioned. MashaAllah. So the next brother Abdul Aziz, like to share some points on why we should build a relationship with the Quran.
I think Brother Faisal gave a quite good point just now, right? But I just want to say that the Quran is just like Brother Reza mentioned, it's like a journey. It's not something that you do one time off and just, finish after Ramadan. It's a journey, no matter how slow you are. But remember that we need to do better than what we are before. Just to recap the part 1, memorize more verses than before, understand more Arabic than before, and recite better than before. So I think that's all for me.
Right. So
for the intro.
It's a continuous journey, isn't it? Like quoting from what Ibn Taimiyyah mentioned before, that he regretted at the end of his life, and he was a scholar, a full-fledged scholar, that knows all the knowledge behind this. So if he had regretted on what he didn't reflect on the meanings of the Quran, then that shows that the meanings of the Quran, what you can extract from it, is basically endless. You think about it, right? So that's one point of benefit, mashallah. So Brother Syahmi, anything to share regarding the points that we mentioned last week? Faddal.
Yeah, I guess what what I want to share, inshallah, just a quick one. For us to build that relationship with the Quran, right? We always have to, at least for me, I find that when looking into the Quran, we will find verses in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explain, the greatness of the Quran, the Quran is such a mercy, blessing, and also the guidance for all mankind. So when reading this over and over again, you will find that yourself, you will find that you telling yourself that yes, this is the perfect guidance, and I want to hold on to this guidance, inshallah, until the day I die, because Allah subhanahu wa taala, if we open the Quran after Surah Al-Fatiha, immediately after that in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That is the kitab, that is the book in which Allah has revealed, and in which there's no even
doubt, right?
there's no doubt whatsoever in the book. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, guidance for those who have taqwa, guidance for those who have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to be honest, there are many verses in this in talking about this. For example, another one I'm going to give is from Surah Al-Kahf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Subhanalladhi anzal alhamdulillahi alladhi anzala ala abdihi kitaban wa lam yaj'alahu iwaja. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has sent down this book to his slave, which is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to every one of us, and has not made in it any form of and has made in it everything straight, on a straight path, and there's no
Right?
crookedness, no contradiction between one another. So when we read these sort of verses, it will, subhanallah, it will strengthen our iman, right? And inshallah, that will put us on that path of wanting to know more about the Quran and stuff like that. And also we have many ahadith regarding the Quran. For example, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach the Quran to others. So these are the things that actually it motivates people to want to have that relationship with the Quran. And also there's a hadith. I can't remember the matan exactly, but whenever we memorize the Quran, for example, inshallah, when we are from those who are permitted to enter Jannah, with each verse, with each surah that we memorize, then our station in Jannah will actually alleviate from one. For example, if you maybe you read, maybe a person, he might memorize the whole of the whole of the Quran. So it will be said to him, recite, and his station will be risen from one level of Jannah, to the next, to the next. Yeah.
So the level of your reward in paradise will depend on how much Quran you know in this dunya.
Yes.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Sahih. So I think this is one of the best things that motivate people to learn the Quran, actually. So what I'm trying to say is, have that knowledge first. You read the Quran, and then you go to the scholar and have them explain to you what are the benefits of the Quran, what are the fada'il of the Quran, and you'll see that you will want to be on this path to be from Ahlul Quran, from those who are memorize the Quran, and those who have the Quran in their hearts and actually practice them in our life. So
Sahih.
Something crossed my mind, Syahmi, when you mentioned about that. I want to put analogy, right? Ranks in paradise.
yeah.
You know how like flights, how expensive it is to go business class? Forget about first class, right?
Yeah. You're always looking like, oh, business class, mashallah. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
wow. Upper echelons of society, right? And when you go first class, you're like, never, right? But subhanAllah, like the Quran, Allah gives this to you if you have this strong relationship with it in this dunya, which, by the way, even without this reward, the Quran by itself is already a huge guidance and mercy from Allah. And then on the day on the day of judgment, you will get this special first class treatment that you never expected, right?
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Wow.
Wouldn't that be a treat
Yeah.
Yes, subhanallah.
MashaAllah.
Subhanallah. And when Allah mentions the word hudal lil muttaqin, right? Sometimes it's not we don't appreciate what Allah mentions in the Quran, but think of it, this is mentioned by the one who created us. So Allah knows what is best for us, what we need. So when Allah mentions there is a guidance, therefore this is basically the ultimate word, so something that you should appreciate as well in regards to that.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Inshallah. So
What does that, maybe what does that entail is everything besides the Quran, you don't have that guidance, besides that Quran, because this is only this book, without a doubt, has all the guidance you need to actually make you attain His mercy and subsequently enter Jannah.
In first class.
Yeah, in first class. Think about it.
MashaAllah, your first class ticket.
Yeah, inshallah.
MashaAllah.
You only know what ticket you get after you die. That's the best part, right?
Yes.
So that's a good motivation for us. If you keep trying to improve, then you have a nice surprise to look forward to when you meet Allah Azza wa Jalla. So just a nice little analogy lah.
Yeah,
because we never know. We never know, right? We never know what will happen.
Yeah,
just do the best we can do. Inshallah.
Yeah, and you never know when your time is up. So the time is to hasten, right? To hasten to goodness. Right. So, Brother Amir, you have any points from last week? Any beneficial points from last week?
Now I know why Brother Faisal likes to keep it at the end. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Brother Faisal for taking the last speaker, because it's the hardest. When you just write all these points, so what else is left?
What else is left?
Yeah?
We snatched away all your good stuff, huh?
I'm always in favor of going first or second. It's easier, it's fresh. MashaAllah, we make it a bit harder. And all are really good points, yeah. And actually, I learned a lot from all of my brothers on the last podcast session. But I just want to share, I think this is an analogy one of our teachers brought, and I think it's very beautiful. It's like in the Quran, it was sent to mankind for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of objective of the Quran, guidance, means to seek blessings, a cure for the body, for the soul, whatsoever, yeah. And on each of reasons of the Quran are followed with many goodness out of it. Yeah, so it's like a branch of tree that you have many smaller branches to that tree. So one branch is like the reason of it, and you have many fruits to that tree. So those are the goodness that comes with every of that reasons for the Quran. Yeah. It's like this. It's like so in analogy, it's like this. It's like your relationship with Quran. It's like you going on a long life journey, like just like what Brother Aziz mentioned. Yeah. But then this journey you'll never get to the end. You'll never get to the end. And on every long journey, you have stopovers. You have like R&R, like what we have here in Malaysia, tolls and whatsoever. Yeah. And each of that journey is like a milestone. It's like one goodness that you get from the Quran. Yeah. And once you achieve that, yeah, getting to the next milestone will double up the reward. Yeah. So there's a smaller goodness, and every time you reach to the next milestone, the reward gets higher. Like you go to this long journey. You finish the first stop, you get 1 million ringgit. You go to the second stop, you get 10 million ringgit. So you are more motivated. However, going through all these milestones is not easy. Some maybe you might need to go through a gravel road. Yeah, go gravel road, and then probably you might trip, and then you hurt your knees. Yeah, you wounded. Yeah.
It's just first time I heard this term, devil road. Huh? That means
gravel.
Gravel. I heard devil. Okay.
The gravel road, there is shaitan at the side trying to snatch you away.
That's right. So that's perhaps like.
So we enriched the analogy. Did you?
That's right. Yeah. It's like that's perhaps like tajweed. Yeah. Like because some people was not born with. Or find it difficult in one way or the other to recite properly. So it's like those really difficult roads that you have to go through. But once you got it, then you go to the next. You look forward for the next milestone, and the next milestone might be different challenges to that. Let's say after you got your recitation correct, next what you want to get is you want to do the understanding correctly. Yeah. So this poses another challenge. Maybe in this next path you see many detours. With poor road signs, or maybe no road signs, and you got a broken GPS, and Waze is just not showing up right now.
Okay.
So you gotta sometimes look at the signs, look at the symptoms whatsoever, and then you might take the long road, and then you must realize I've taken the wrong road, and then I'll need to recalibrate my journey and go back to the main road. So those are challenges, yeah? And maybe the companions you have in your travel is actually also it's the same as you. That we are ignorant just as you are. You don't know how to read the signs of the roads. You those kind of challenge, yeah. And then they say, like, Alhamdulillah, and then you try your best, and with the way of Allah, you achieve to the second milestone, yeah. And then you go to the third milestone, maybe it's memorization, yeah. And then you also have difficulty in that. Maybe you have to go through some muddy fields, murky waters. It was thunderstorm, raining, yeah. And then you keep forgetting your map, yeah. So you have to always come back and then restart that journey again to that stretch of second or the third milestone, yeah. And maybe the fourth milestone, which is to implement it. And this is also challenging. Perhaps this is the one that you're gonna face those uphill roads on the uphill thorny roads with broken glass and spikes everywhere. Yeah? And this is perhaps the hardest road. And this road will take you an entire lifetime, and you will never see the end. But that's the reality of how you should read your relationship with the Quran. It's a long life relationship with many milestones, and at each milestone there's a lot of goodness. But to achieve it, you have to throw in the effort because there will be challenges to that. Yeah, that's all.
And then after that, you go to the highway, which is to convey what you learn of the Quran. Now that's even a harder one, right? More thorns, more mud, more gravel, right?
Or you can write a travel log out of it. Oh, to go to this destination, this is what you need, guys.
That's a good one, yeah. MashaAllah.
And actually, your journey actually ever really ends when you leave this world, right? So that's the perspective that you have. It's a continuous journey, and you never rest until you can't do anything at all anymore when you leave this world. So,
So if I add to that, so what I'm looking for this session from all of you brothers is like perhaps like what sort of tires should I use? Yeah, what sort of GPS maybe I should install in my car? You know, what sort of first aid kit I should pack in my car? Like
the provisions.
Provisions, yeah. The how, yeah. So this is I'm looking forward to this session today.
Yeah, actually, I want to just go off the point about the journey, right? This is a nice little pearl of wisdom I got from the recent Straight Path Convention, which is to remind us that there is sweetness in the struggle. There is joy to be had in going through the journey. Don't be so results driven that you're looking to the end, just looking at the signpost. You need to realize that progress itself is something that has reward. There's a lot of sweetness in it. So just enjoy that. Enjoy the moments that at least you are in the car driving, as opposed to just giving up.
Yeah.
And also always be thankful for whatever your whatever provision you have to go to that journey. Like for instance, if you're in a car, the road, it might be dark, everything is broken, but at least you got the aircon on. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Enjoy the little things.
That's true. MashaAllah.
And also, right, you might be facing all these challenges, but know that for a fact that whatever you're going through, it's not gone unnoticed by Allah. He is Al-Latif, Al-Khabir, the one who is well aware of the most subtle details, even what you're going through internally. So keep that in mind. You're never alone. Allah knows what you are going through, and inshallah there will be reward for you if you continue to strive in that struggle. And just to add on to that point, in our day and age, we are burdened with so much convenience. What I mean by that is there's so much distractions nowadays, especially our social media, our phones, on top of what we have to do as a family man, our work, and all those other things that demand our attention. So all these things, to the average person, it might look harmless, but actually what it does is that it busies us to the point that it takes us away from the remembrance of the reality of life and where we are heading. What do we need for that final destination? What provisions do we need? And we tend to overlook the most important resource that we have in our deen, which is the Quran, and only to revisit them at certain times, especially during Ramadan. And we perhaps don't appreciate it so much that this is such an amazing book that was sent down by Allah which is, as Brother Syahmi mentioned, all these benefits, a guidance, a cure, a solution to all our problems, if we really look into it. And Allah mentioned in the Quran, it's a guidance for the people with clear proofs and the guidance and a criterion. So a furqan, a thing, a filter that enables you to see what is correct and what is wrong, which leads to, inshallah, your success in the dunya and the akhirah. And also at the same time, it brings a lot of comfort to whatever we are facing in this world, like it's a book that we can always turn to gain a lot of comfort and a source of remedy for all our ailments of the world, because Allah mentions, unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, which is the dhikr of Allah, hearts are assured. So this is basically the Quran
hearts
as well.
find rest, right? That's
Hearts
also
find rest, exactly, yeah. So therefore, where a person, if they are feeling uneasy or anxious in this life, one place that you can go to, that you should go to, is the Quran, because Allah assures it that in its remembrance, in Allah's remembrance, the hearts will find rest. And also, as Brother Syahmi mentioned, also it'll be not only a source of benefit in the dunya, but also our savior in the akhirah. So just to mention the hadith, one specific item which Brother Syahmi mentioned from the hadith, that if the person in the akhirah, he recites and rise in status as you recite in this world, before in the hadith he mentioned, it will be said to the companion of the Quran, recite and rise in status as you used to recite in the world, and your position will be at the last verse you recite. So I just want to point the attention that it mentions in this hadith that it says it will be said to the companion of the Quran. So what's the meaning of the companion of the Quran? Notice how this is, and we should ask ourselves, what qualifies us to be the companions of the Quran? Does our current practice qualify us for this status? And this should be a point of motivation for us to not only recite the Quran more, but act upon its commandments, because that is definitely the true measure of being the companion of the Quran, the one who really implements the Quran in their lives and implements it as a guidance, not just for recitation. So this imagine that scene when people are admitted to paradise, right? So the levels, like Brother Faisal mentioned before, the different classes, different. You don't want that to be a source of regret, that you are finally reaching a level that you can reach a higher level, but you just didn't do the effort in the dunya, So something to reflect on, to motivate us further to look into the Quran more and really fulfill its rights and try to be one of the companions of the Quran. So mashallah, jazakumullah khairan for all the sharing, brothers. It's quite amazing what we reflect on when we reflect on why we should build the relationship with the Quran. So now we want to move into the segment of how we want to build a relationship with the Quran. What are the practical steps that we can implement in our lives? Thinking of from the perspective of being a busy person, the one who has many responsibilities, how can we implement practices that makes us closer to the Quran? And obviously all these measures are important, but I just want to ask a quick question to the brothers before we start on the hows. In regards to the different ilm or the different knowledge branches of the Quran, for example, tafsir, tajweed, which is the makhraj, the correct recitation,
how to recite the Quran.
How to recite the Quran, and also the
the explanation of the Quran.
Yeah, tafsir is the explanation. Tajweed is the how to recite, and the hifz is the memorization of the Quran. So I just want to go one round and see what you guys think. Which one is the most important branch of knowledge for perhaps the average person today? Because it can be, like a bit confusing. Which one do you focus on? Which is the more important one? So perhaps we can get the opinion of the brothers on this topic. So inshallah, Brother Aziz, what do you think?
For me, the first thing before you you try to note go to tafsir, tajweed, or the hifz, is that have the intention to build a relationship with the Quran. Without this, you won't do all of that, right?
The desire to
Oh,
even learn in
right.
the first
You need to
place.
have the desire, the intention first,
Right.
Yeah,
and
Right.
then
the correct intention.
my way was I do which is easy for me first, which is recite the Quran first with and read the translation. That was
Right, right.
my first method, and then I would go to the tafsir, but I don't read it for myself. I go to some class because before MCO we have classes every Tuesday here, and then I was with these brothers. They were memorizing the Quran, which I think
Inshallah.
was impossible before because I'm working, right?
Right.
And then brother Faisal, who's the brother? Other brother, yeah, Faisal. And we
Which
have
one?
more brothers, right? Memorizing
they were-
together, brother Amir.
Brother Amir, Arif,
Amran,
Brother Arif.
Ilyas,
Yeah.
Faisal, Farhan.
MashaAllah.
And then I look at them. These guys just like me, right? And they're memorizing. So I try myself.
FOMO, right? Remember
home.
that was the theme
Yeah.
last one?
FOMO,
Fear of-
yeah.
fear
This
of
is a good
missing out.
application of FOMO.
Right.
True, and then I tried for myself, but I just started with one verse at a time. But some of the brothers can memorize half of the pages and 1 pages per day, but it's not for me. So I just start with what is on what they say on arm's length. So
Right, right.
I just recite. What you need is just to start first.
So basically, you started off with the recitation and the understanding, looking at the translation, and then you moved on to the other branches of the knowledge.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
At the same time, I learned the tajweed quite late because I know how to read, but not in the
Yep.
correct way.
Yep, yep. MashaAllah.
Or like-
Brother Amir, what do you think? Which are the most important ones?
Okay. Okay. I'm just going to draw a parallel to another branch of knowledge, which is very important, which is the medical knowledge. Because why people learn medical knowledge? It's because they want to cure the disease of the body. Yeah. But medical knowledge is only worthwhile, is only useful if you are able to practice it. If you are able to put that knowledge to practice. Yeah.
Right.
But for that knowledge to be put to practice, what are the steps before? You need to understand it. Yeah. You need to learn how to read those notes in the first place. Yeah. So it has steps. Yeah. Before you actually come to the end. Same. And this is a knowledge of the deen. It's higher. It's in the Qur'an you mentioned the highest knowledge is the one that cures the heart, and second is medical knowledge, which cures the body. So it's like that. So for you for knowledge of the Quran, which is the deen encompassing in it, so for you to be able for it to serve as a function as a guidance, as a cure of your heart whatsoever, you need to go through the steps first. And the steps, as what just now Brother Aziz mentioned, first you got to know how to recite. Because that's the first step. Just like the medical notes, you don't know how to read, you don't know how, then that's it. You can't read anything at all, yeah? So recitation comes first, yeah?
Right, recitation. MashaAllah. Brother Faisal, what do you think?
Okay, so the question is which one is the most important between
Yep,
tajweed, hifz, tajweed means how to recite, hifz
Yep.
meaning memorization, and tafsir meaning the understanding the meanings of the Quran, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I have a short answer and I have a slightly more elaborate answer. So my short answer is this. Just do something.
Yeah.
Just get into action. Right? Now, here's the reason why. When you learn tajweed, for example, if you are a sincere student of the Quran, there's going to be a point of time where you're going to be wondering to yourself, what am I actually reciting? Then you will realize it's important to understand.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
If you only do memorization, there's going to be a point of time where you're going to realize that, wait a minute, my pronunciation is all over the place. What am I memorizing? Then you'll
Yeah.
start to realize, I have to learn tajweed. And then if you learn tafsir, you learn lots and lots and lots and lots of tafsir. If you're a sincere student of the Quran and you know that the pious predecessors, the Salafus Salih, and even until today, you will see that the importance is always on memorization. Right? If you look at the lifestyle of the Muslims, it's always prioritized that first. That's why they will send their children as young as 5, 6 years old to memorize first, even when they don't understand anything yet. You understand? Do you
Yeah.
recognize the implication?
Yeah. Yes.
They don't
yes.
really have the cognitive ability to truly appreciate tafsir yet, and yet they have to retain. Now, you do, after you learn tafsir for a while, and you realize, wait a minute, I'm not even doing something that the Salaf emphasized to children. Wait, I have to do that too. So you see the point. Just do something. If you that momentum is moving, inshallah, if you are a sincere student of the Quran, you will find a means. There's a very simple quote that I always remind myself. If it's important to you, you will find a way.
Yes.
If it's not
You will
important,
find excuse.
you will find an excuse, right? So
Yes.
this is the point. I don't like this question sometimes because if people ask this question as if like when I say which one is more important, it means that okay.
You have to
if
choose.
yeah, exactly. So if you tell them it's tajweed, it's kata, oh, okay, thank God I'm not learning tafsir yet. Okay, I'm learning what's important first.
Yeah.
You made an excuse for yourself. And then if you're like okay, and then if you say like they have a confirmation bias, right? So if you say tafsir is most important, oh, thank God I'm learning tafsir. Okay. They're already
That
confirming
reinforces my beliefs.
that reinforces my beliefs, right? And then they'll go fatwa shopping again. Okay, so that's one drawback of that question. The other drawback is sometimes when you want to reinforce something so much, you tend to neglect the other parts. And this is a big problem that I see in some students of the Quran. When they learn tafsir, they start to look down on people who just learn tajweed. This is bad.
Yeah.
This is a bad attitude.
Bad
If people want to improve their knowledge, you should be encouraging. Right? If you want to encourage them to learn tafsir, go ahead, but not to the point where you start looking down on other people. So this is where this question, we have to approach it with a very sincere mindset. Right? The idea is, the Prophet ﷺ even left it open, right?
Yeah.
خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you is those who learn the Quran and teach it. But learn which one first? Just learn. So that was supposed to be the short answer, right? So
it's a short answer.
Yeah, that was a short answer. But yeah, I mean, the answer is just do something, just get the momentum going, right? The momentum itself, because you see, when you get good at something, this doesn't have to be just Quran, right? When you get good at a sport, the better you get at it, the more motivated you want to play more of it, right?
Yeah.
Even computer games, right? If you play these very complicated games in the beginning, you keep losing. You're like, forget it. This game is not for me, right? But once you start getting good, right? Once you start knowing how to snipe people from a distance, you're like, I'm pretty boss at this,
Kinda
right?
enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it gets to you, right? It's the same thing, right? To draw an analogy of the Quran, in the beginning, you're like, you don't really want to spend that much time. But after you get a bit better at it, after you understand just a little bit of tafsir, you're like, there's a sense of empowerment. So that momentum will drive you internally to want to learn more. Now, but okay, if you want to have a systematic answer as to which one is important, so this is something that I've picked up over the years from the teachers that I've learned so far. You should have a basic tajweed, at least for the basic surah. Like Suratul Fatiha, because that's a rukun in Salah, right? Prophet ﷺ says there's no prayer for the one who does not recite Al-Fatiha. So at least if you were to learn, start with that first, because that is your ultimate whether your prayer is accepted or not. Okay, so that's it starts with that. And then after that, look for a teacher or people who can guide you in something that at least gets you into a regular education system. Right? So at least get into the momentum, because once you get into the system, it's kind of like business networking. When you know one branch, you'll get to know other people in similar fields. You know what I mean? So like, okay, there's a teacher in tajweed. So maybe that you can ask the teacher, I'm interested to learn about the tafsir or the meanings of the Quran or even basic Arabic. Can you help me out? Inshallah, you always find a way, right? And even if it's not the teacher himself or herself, it can be the other classmates in your class, because they are also students of the Quran. They also want to learn. So that's one thing. Like, we talk about networking, about business, right? People always talk about networking like, oh, here's my card, right? You want people business opportunities, right? But think about Quran also from that perspective of like the benefits of networking. And then that will start to grow. Having said that as well, try not to make it something that's too random. When you want to learn, right, you want to make sure you have a right syllabus and a right system, so that things are not just kind of like hodgepodge, piecemeal stuff. Yeah. So the answer is like, at least,
Find a teacher, right?
yeah, find a teacher,
Okay.
which actually is the next part. But actually, yeah, I mean, the topic about which one is important, they're all important, and none of the I like the analogy that Amir brought about medicine, right? Like, can you ask somebody in medicine which one is more important, anatomy or pharmacy? I mean,
Yeah.
can you really be a good doctor and be lousy at one? You know, like, you know what I mean, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
no way.
They all reinforce each other, right? So that's the point. Quran knowledge is like that. Being good at one will reinforce the other one. And so this is where we want to try and have this right mindset. Like, okay, it's fine. We all recognize that we have gaps in certain areas, and at least try to make an effort to improve it. And inshallah, if you put the sincere intention in your hearts, Allah will never leave you alone. Allah will make a means possible if you have that right aspiration to do so.
Can I add something to that? Can I just add something small?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like all those minor divisions of knowledge of the Quran. Yeah, there are some basic requirements, intermediate and experts, advanced.
Right.
So when you study, try to at least grasp the basics first.
The basics of
In all
that's a good
the
one.
branches. Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I think as well.
If we overwhelm us with something big, it would overburden us.
Overburden.
Yeah.
I think for the average person, the average Muslim out there are certain basic things that we should know about the Quran in regards to a bit of the tafsir, a bit of the tajweed, and slightly bit of the memorization. So as the brothers mentioned before, it's like it's complementing each other. And to start off, perhaps the best way to go about it is learn the basics, the minimum requirements of each of those branches of knowledge, and then you will inshallah advance when you reach that point. But to start on each of these branches together would be quite beneficial, because each branch complements each other. So that's what I think.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, yeah, true.
That's nice.
Need to start.
Brother Syahmi, anything to add to that?
MashaAllah, everyone got their points.
Went last, huh?
Yeah. Kudos to Brother Faisal.
Kudos.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a hadith in which Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu he said, أن جبريل كان يعرض على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم القرآن كل عام مرة فعرض عليه مرتين في العام الذي قبض فيه. So the hadith means the Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrates that the Quran was gone over to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once annually, once in a year, meaning the Quran was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reciting the Quran in front of Jibril alayhi salam once a year, but that was done twice in the year in which he died. Okay, and this was during the month of Ramadan. And then he said he used to engage in private devotions in the masjid during the 10 nights every year, but he did this during 20 nights in the year in which he died. So this narration was narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari. So from this narration, there are many things we can unpack, right? For one thing is that the scholars say, right? The scholars say that it is sunnah, or it is preferred to have during the Ramadan especially, to read the Quran over and over again. And it is also beloved, it is also preferred, and it's a sunnah to actually having it completed during the month of Ramadan. Okay, and mind you, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he did this, there was no mushaf. There was no mushaf. So he was reading it. He was reading it, via memory. Like he memorized it, and he whatever that maybe he missed, the angel Jibril alayhi salam, he will correct him directly. And this was done annually for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So what does this mean? This shows that if you have enough, if you have gathered enough resources in terms of tajweed, right, you can recite you can recite perfectly. And no one can recite perfectly, but you can recite it in a good manner with the correct, as long as your makhraj, the placement of the tongue is correct, and the tajweed, meaning the harakat, or the long and the short as and is, you got it right, you nail it.
Yeah, yes.
So the next thing to do is to follow the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. In here, what it shows that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he memorized the Quran. He memorized the Quran. For this reason, some of the scholars, they say that they put the order. So the first in order is actually to have the hifz done, to memorize the Quran, because because the tilawah, the recitation, the tajweed is already there. For some people, they are already having this, right? So the next best thing, the number one thing to do is to hifz, to memorize the Quran. And also not only to memorize, but also to do muraja'ah, to revise the things that you have memorized from the Quran. So that's number one. And then number two, al-mudarasah or mudarasatuhu, meaning you understand the meanings of the Quran. After you have memorized the Quran, you understand its meanings. If you're not capable of reading the Quran in Arabic yet, or the tafsir, the books of tafsir, maybe you can look into the translations. We have many excellent translations, into English, the English language, the Malay language, and almost literally every language you have in this world, you have it done. You have it translated into those languages. And also number three, finally, tilawah. So number three is to recite, and then it is actually the tilawah itself is actually you can get it by having the muraja'ah, having the revision, because once you have memorized the Quran, you have the Quran in your heart. So what are you doing? You are reciting it from your heart. You're not reciting it from the mushaf. You are reciting it. So you are doing the tilawah and more. You're getting more from it. And also you understand it, so you get the tadabbur, you get the feeling of it. You can actually understand it. So this, brothers and sisters, is especially for those who have gone to that, way past the intermediate level, maybe close to advanced level, or because the brothers, mashallah, they have given some advice on how to actually start, right? Maybe you have not been having that relationship with the Quran at all, or maybe a little, maybe you read once a year, right? So those are the tips that, mashallah, the brothers have put forth. But this specific tips that I have, that I say here, is for those who, they have recited well, and maybe they have, they memorize some of the surah, but they want to do more. So yeah,
Right.
so yeah, I think this is one of the ways that we and also it depends on where your level is. So self-awareness is very good. Self-awareness is very important. Like,
Right.
you yourself need to know where you are in terms of your tajweed and makhraj.
Right.
So
right.
if that's something that you need to work on, then do that.
Yeah,
Do just
that's
that.
true.
Because
Right.
once you get the correct makhraj and the tajweed correct, right? Of course, we will never be able to recite the way that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recite, but at least from the teachers that you attend the classes with, right? They will tell you, okay, the way you recite now is better than how you used to recite. So, at that point of time, you will know that, okay, I should recite like this. This is the way I should recite from now, from here on out. And then what you can do next is, slowly memorize some of the the Quran, the surah that maybe that surah that you have been listening to your local imam reciting, right? So maybe you attend Salatul Fajr during Fridays, you will hear them reciting Surah Sajdah and Suratul Insan, for example. So you might want to recite that, because you will be listening to it every Friday morning, every
Yeah.
Friday Fajr.
Yeah, true.
And then now with that newfound knowledge of you now know how to recite it well, so it is more befitting for you to memorize it and to recite it with good tajweed. So these are the practical tips I think that we can do. And back to my original point.
Sorry,
which is
on that point,
the-
Syahmi, I just
Yeah.
wanted to highlight, like when you say you memorize Surah to Sajdah and Surah Al-Insan, I really love that point because you see, when you memorize a surah and you can see it coming, it makes your mind more receptive to do tadabbur of it. And it almost becomes like an automatic muraja'ah for you.
Yeah,
So it's like every Friday it helps you, helps your own memorization actually. And then when you already memorize something and you've already read the tafsir, and at least even if you just read the basic translation, and then when the imam recites it, now your khushu' is like can go one level higher.
Sahih. That's true. Yeah, so that's my point exactly. Know where you are, know your level with the Quran. That's first and foremost. You can't just follow blindly to your friends. Maybe he has been in Hifz school, since he was 7 years old. Now he can recite well. He already memorized maybe half of the Quran, and then you see him doing this, threading this path, like having muraja'ah every day, and then learning the tafsir. But here you are, you're still struggling with the tajweed and stuff like that. Priorities. So you want to be like him. He started somewhere, so you start from the bottom. Started from the bottom, now we're here. So So
And also important, you start small, because if you start big, you can retain it.
True.
Yes, start small with like I said, like with tajweed.
Yes.
You find a teacher, and your teacher will say, okay, this is the correct way to pronounce it, even if it takes you a year to recite Al-Fatiha well. It's no problem. Just go for it. Because Al-Fatiha, and also this goes back to self-awareness, because Al-Fatiha, if you recite it wrongly, then you got a problem with your salah. You got a problem with your prayers. So, but don't be discouraged, because Al-Fatiha is actually one of my teachers said that Al-Fatiha is one of the easiest surah in the Quran that you can perfect your tajweed and your makhraj on. So you have all the right harf, or the letters that you might feel difficult to pronounce, but once you nail it, the rest of the Quran becomes easier for you. The rest of the Quran
Can I add a point on what you said? Like when you look at your friends who are like hafiz and they're so good in right? So you have this fear of missing out. But
Again, with that,
the trap, right? The FOMO thing. But the trap of shaitan is it makes you feel like giving up. Right?
Yeah.
So I want to remind a
Makes you
quote.
sad, right?
It makes you feel sad. So there's a quote that I really relate to this. It's by T. Allen Armstrong. He says, "Champions do not become champions when they win the event. Champions become champions in the hours, the weeks, and the months and the years they spend preparing for it. The victorious performance itself that you see, the Hafiz who recites tajweed well, mashallah, that is merely the demonstration of their championship character. You have to understand, there were many, 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 many hours put into that product that you see right now. You might not see it, you're not with them.
Yeah.
So you're starting right now. So it's understood there's a lot of work to be done to reach that point. So don't look at that peak and say that, I can't do this. No, they all started from where you are, perhaps even less than where you are right now.
yes.
Most of the things are like that, right? You need to put the hours on it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But if it's on Quran, no, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, that's true. Subhanallah.
Imam Shafi'i said 6 provisions each people who wants to study needs to have. And one of the provision is long time. It requires a really long time.
Yeah.
And also
Right.
and it also requires a lot of patience, because whoever is not patient to seek knowledge, to invest in that long hours to seek knowledge, then bear patience in his ignorance for his entire lifetime.
Right.
Wow.
That's deep.
Yeah. So last point, maybe perhaps I could add. Is that okay? Is our time?
Sure,
okay?
sure.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Let's go.
So despite everything that we've said, right? Perfecting the recitation, at least trying to get to the perfect level that we can never actually achieve, and also having to memorize the Quran, and having tadabbur. These are all great things that we can achieve during our lifetime to actually build that relationship with the Quran. But we have to bring our focus back to what's the ideal relationship between us and the Quran? What is it, right? So Al Hasan al Basri, rahimahullah, he said, "Unzila al Quran liyu'mala bihi, fattakhadha an-nasu qira'atahu amala." So he said the Quran is sent down to be acted upon, but unfortunately, men took its recitation as being acting upon it. It's quite deep. So nowadays we see it a lot. When we see people reciting the Quran, somewhere in their hearts they think that, oh, I'm I have this relationship with the Quran. I'm Ahlul Quran. I'm from the Ahlul Quran. All right.
Right.
But who are you to say that? Who are you to claim? La tuzaku anfusakum. No, don't claim. Don't give that tazkiyah, or how do you say this? Don't give that.
Yeah, basically
Label
don't
on
claim,
yourself.
right?
No, don't claim. Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Don't
label
claim.
yourself.
Done claim.
Don't hashtag don't claim. So
So actually, the pinnacle of the Quran, relationship of the Quran,
Yes.
people look at it as like the deeds of reciting Quran is the relationship, but the
It
real
is.
the real core of the relationship is acting upon it.
yeah, this was my point.
Yes.
Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Inna lillahi ahlin qala, and then his sahabat said, qala man hum ya Rasulullah? Qal ahlul Quran ahlullah wa khassatuhu. Verily Allah has his own people. Oof. Allah has his own people. Who are they? The companion said. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the people of the Quran, the people of Allah, and those who are closest to him. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, Yu'ta yawm al-qiyamah bil Quran wa ahluhu alladhina ya'maluna bihi. This is the point here. The Quran was gone over, the hadith says that on the day of judgment, the Quran will brought forth, right? And the people who are Ahlul Quran. And then here's the catch. The people who are Ahlul Quran, alladhina ya'maluna bihi, those who acted upon them, those who act upon the Quran, the message that is brought. Not the one who recites well, not the one who memorized the Quran. So if you don't even memorize the Quran, but you act upon it, then you are from the Ahlul Quran. Think about that. Nowadays we are being fed with this, all the glitters and gold of, and this bedazzled by these people who recite well. They're okay, but the thing is, you need to start acting upon it. So
The real
we are
fruits
losing
is
the
the
essence.
action. Yeah,
Yeah.
losing the essence, right? And
Yeah.
actually, there's another hadith beautifully encompasses this. So somebody asked Aisha, radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how was his conduct, his character? And Aisha described it in a very, very short description. She said, don't you recite the Quran? Kana khuluquhu al-Quran. His
Mashallah.
actions, his
Mashallah.
character was the Quran. Enough said.
Yeah.
If you want to have the character of the Prophet ﷺ, act upon the Quran. And this also, there's another hadith that when Syahmi mentioned this, it does remind me of another hadith. The Prophet ﷺ warned us because it says that towards the end of time, there will be groups of people from my ummah who will recite the Quran, but the recitation doesn't pass their throats. That means it's only a superficial recitation. So we have to be...
Nasallallahu salama.
May Allah protect us from that.
Oh, by the way, just talk about this acting upon the Quran, right? Just to put an analogy to this real world, right? You see, when you act upon a book, your attachment to the book will be more, right? So if you read a self-help book or a motivation book and it's useful, you recommend that book, even if that book is not the best written, but because you found a lot of benefits from it, right? So for example, I used to recommend to people to read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People because I found it a lot of good practical applications in my life. But when I compare it to other books, maybe it's not the most, the wordings are not as interesting as some other books. But because they're so practical, they helped me. That's what makes it me recommend it to other people. Now, if your relationship with the Quran is the same, the more you act upon it, the more you realize that, wow, subhanallah, this book can really elevate my life, can really inspire me. But if you don't act upon it, you'll be reluctant to recommend it to other people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it comes back to you actually.
And if you recommend it, and you will get the same reward Or if you
Yeah.
convey the message.
mashallah.
When
It's
someone
good.
practices it, you also get the
You also
reward
get
that
the
they
reward.
get, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go.
Without
Mashallah.
decreasing the people's rewards.
Amazing. Keep that in mind every time you are recommending someone or calling someone to the deen, because that is, inshallah, that it will be the reward, the compensation for that.
Yeah, so that's actually another tip that we just picked up right now, that how to build a relationship with the Quran. When you find something that's useful or inspiring, just share it on your social media. You know, we have this problem is that we don't share. We think like, everyone knows this already. Come on, guys. If it's important, you will share it. Inspire other people. And by the way, when you share things about the Quran, people do have this attitude. It's like, we know this already. So sometimes people who don't appreciate that value, they won't see it yet. But those who do, Allah says, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, because reminding benefits the believers. Those who have iman, they have an attachment to the ayah. They may already know the ayah. They may already know the tafsir. But when you share it, they're like, wow, that's nice. So you
Yeah.
always have a benefit if you share. You have nothing to lose if you don't share. In fact, it's free, right? Sharing on social media is free. People share other stuff anyway. So why don't you share about the Quran, right?
Another way that how you want to build this relationship with Quran, you must have like a genuine reverence of it. You have that utmost respect of it, and you know, Quran is the speech of Allah, right? So that the companions used to say this, like, because it's the speech of Allah, and if Allah didn't help you, then nobody will be able to even converse a word from the Quran.
Wow, subhanallah.
So there's a lot of amazing. You're pretty much you're at a lot of respect to the Quran, yeah. But just thinking of that.
Yeah, and then building on the point of acting on it and on the reverence as well, the more you act on it, the more you feel an appreciation from Allah. That Allah didn't just leave you to your own like whims and just to figure out life by yourself. He already put a manual for you, and the more you act upon it, the more you actually have this gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine the people who don't have an attachment from the Quran, who don't even have the Quran in their lives? They're kind of living based on what people say are good. You know, like the majority says this. Then suddenly, you know, the majority says this. That's what happens, right? 1 year, everything is good, fine and dandy. Then the next year, this is bad. Then you get cancelled for those things. You know, the cancel culture starts coming in. And then sometimes you say, this is bad, this is wrong, this is illegal. Then 3 years down the line, no, it's fine. What the?
You don't have a firm criteria to benchmark something, yeah?
Exactly. And when you have this relationship that you have this benchmark, you act upon it, then you realize, Alhamdulillah, my life is so easy. I just have to take a ready-made product for me that Allah gave you, because Allah says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, that today I have perfected my religion for you. It's something that's already done. You just have to extract from it. I don't have to waste this mental energy of figuring out what's good or what's bad for me, you know? So that builds, that's also your life as to build the taqwa. One aspect of taqwa, the root core of taqwa is to have shukr of Allah. Now think about it this way. There's a hadith, and I think a lot of us have heard this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray his night prayer until his feet cracked, right? His knees his feet used to have visible injuries. So Aisha asked him, Ya Rasulullah, why do you do this when Allah has forgiven your past and future sins? What was the response of the Prophet ﷺ?
Should I be a grateful servant, a slave?
Yes. Afala akuna abdan shakura, right? Shouldn't I be a thankful slave? The more gratitude you have, the more you want to pray, the more you want to recite Quran, the more relationship you have with the Quran based on that gratitude. So it's something that continuously reinforces one another.
MashaAllah. Yeah, that's great.
So like, I guess
Good tips.
to bring it back to the practical tips that everyday Muslims can do, like you're faced with your daily tasks and challenges, right?
Yeah.
How do you fit the Quran in that schedule? How perhaps the brothers have some things that they usually practice in their daily routine to fit in some of the Quran, your daily Quran, in your daily routine. So,
Okay.
if there any what the brothers want to share,
Perhaps I can share a simple one. Sign up for classes. Now, signing up for classes integrates many different productivity tips in once, which we can break down. When you sign up for classes, you commit to a certain time. So you time block that. So this is the productivity tool we talk about a lot, right? Time blocking.
Yes.
Time blocking. Yeah.
If it's important to you, you schedule it. and you'll commit to it, and you'll gut to that commitment like your dear life. Right?
Yes, yes, yes. It's
when
a
you sign-
commitment, right? It suddenly becomes a commitment. So then you
Yes.
act on it, whether you like
Yes.
it or not.
Exactly.
Whether you feeling it or not in that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just a side note as well. People like, this is another thing. People, when it comes to Quran, people don't want to pay money. But you can pay so much for like modern courses, right? But for some reason, Quran should be free, man. Like, this is from Allah. This is a problem attitude that people have. If it's important to you, you'll invest for it. So put the right mindset. You're not wasting money at all. This is your investment for dunya and akhirah. Very important. And by the way, when you spend money towards something, you'll want to make sure you actually get something from it, right? So when you sign up for classes and you pay, then your psychology has this, that sunk cost fallacy, psychology, right? I paid money, I have
Paid
to
for
commit
it.
to it. Yeah, I have to show up now. So it actually helps you actually. So signing up for classes does that.
Mashallah, mashallah.
Also, another aspect of signing up for classes is that it's not a random timing. If you don't sign up for classes, you're like, okay, I'll do it after, let's say after I finish work today. And then work drags, and then you get traffic jam. And then okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Once you say I'll do it tomorrow, not gonna happen, bro.
Tomorrow never come.
And also,
when you say sign up for classes, also make sure the teachers are good. For instance, like
Right, that's the one, yes.
even like I think we are blessed in any Muslim nation. There's plenty of supply of Quran teachers. But if you're at the luxury of choices, like for instance, it's better you get someone who has proper certifications.
Yep.
That would be a better one. Yeah, but if you don't have that luxury, then as long as the knowledge are firm and strong, then that's good. That's good for you.
Yeah.
And if you didn't plan, right, you didn't sign up for classes, it might be when we talked about in our episode, the slump. Some aspect of your life might be even more busier than others. Like, for example, you might get a new promotion to your job, or some life event happen. Then perhaps if you don't schedule it properly, you might put it aside for now and to return to it in another time. But you never really return to it because then you're
5 years later
busy with the other things. So
5 years later, you're still saying tomorrow, isn't it?
yes, exactly. It's a trap actually. So signing up for classes is a good way to ensure that this time is like your precious time that you don't say neglect for anything else. It's always there. Yeah.
I'll sign up after the podcast, inshallah.
Wow, mashallah.
By the way, teachers as well, alhamdulillah, one of the great hikmah wisdoms of this pandemic is that
Mashallah.
many teachers make classes online available.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a huge
more
blessing from Allah.
excuse.
No more excuse. So that's the downside to that, right? Now you have no more. You say, I don't have any qualified local teachers, right? Now, alhamdulillah, they're all available. So there are no more excuses.
They even give you the time, right? You can customize your time. You want it in the morning or in the night. They give
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, there you go.
Plenty of room.
Plenty of room.
That's right. That's right. Also, perhaps maybe we can just share a bit about how to choose a teacher. These are just some tips that I've gathered throughout the years because I've learned through a few different sources before. So number one, sometimes there's a benefit to having a local teacher as opposed to having somebody who is international. Because some of us, as Amir mentioned, we have difficulties in pronouncing certain letters. A local teacher can relate to that. So for example, many regions in Malaysia, we have difficulty in saying R, raw.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we say rain instead, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one very common one. A very common Malaysian struggle is the letter va. People always say za. That's a wrong makhraj. So a local teacher who has overcome that can teach you how to say it. A local teacher, another one I've seen is that people have difficulty differentiating between Hamzah and Ain. Now, for Arabs, Ain is, since
Natural
birth,
as it goes.
it's natural, right?
Yes.
It's a part of like, the upbringing. It's subconscious teaching, tarbiyah. But when it comes to us, we have to train ourselves. And because in even in English, right, this letter doesn't exist. You never pronounce this. You'll never exercise the muscle to pronounce the word Ain, the letter Ain. So you have to, when you have a local teacher, he can empathize with that. Okay, there's a, and then like they know how to like make the specific movements within your throat or your tongue or your mouth to make those letters possible. And also, normally, what I've learned the benefits as well from a more local teacher is that sometimes they know, of course, there's a lot of different gaps, right? Maybe you have like 20 different areas to improve on. They know which ones are the more important areas for you, your case.
Yes.
So that's one
That's
of
the
the
benefit of having a teacher, right? Know to which one to prioritize first, and then
yes.
you can
Yes.
the other.
Yeah, mashallah.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
Yeah, and also you need somebody. You need that kind of growth mindset, like a systematic way to do it. And a good teacher, normally a good teacher will try to focusing, improving like one or two things. That's it.
Yeah, even though you have 20 mistakes,
Exactly.
he would tell only 2, 3 because he don't want to overburden you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what my teacher do. MashaAllah.
Yeah, it's actually a very
Mashallah.
brilliant point. You know why? Okay,
Yeah.
I say this, you know why? Because sometimes people, as human beings, right, we like to choose the most qualified guy. So we take the guy with like 8 sanads, the 8 chains of narration, which is okay, alhamdulillah, which is good. But you see, sometimes, right, when they are very advanced, they they have been a bit detached from that beginner phase. So
Yes.
how to get you to to just mention this one letter? It can get them frustrated, so,
Yes.
so it can get a bit on their nerves. Number one, but also number two, when they hear 20 mistakes in one go, they're like, then you recite a bit, then they will say, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You as a
Yeah.
student, your morale will drop. I've seen a lot of people, they give up on tajweed because of this. They recite like half a page and they get corrections, like they get like 50 corrections in like half a page. I cannot stand this anymore. And then,
Morale
sorry.
will come. This
Yeah.
is not for me.
Yeah, sorry teacher, I'm busy this week.
Nah. Or the common one. That's exactly what I said. I said the same thing. What you mean? I said the same thing.
Then you start raising your voice. So also not so good adab with your teacher, right? Not so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, subhanallah.
Yeah, that goes without saying, like in other knowledge branches as well, like don't take in more than you are able to. So perhaps starting at a beginner level, this is much more beneficial for you at that point in your life. And there's a lot of opportunities when you advance later. You go with the more advanced teacher, but let's say putting things in its right place.
I got just like sharing on that because where I say, but that's what I said is actually if you choose a teacher that is perhaps your child or your wife, you're actually the boss, yeah. Then she comes and correct you on like a lot of mistakes. Yeah, exactly. Can you see that? That's exactly what I just said. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. Okay, I like these points. I want to combine that point with what Reza said. It's okay to start zero. Plan a growth mindset. That means even if you have to start mixing with other fellow classmates who are like 5 years old, just have that, how to say it, that mindset to not have that ego to say, oh, what is this? I'm mixing with kids. Like, get rid of that. Chuck away that ego. You have no place. The Quran has no place for ego. If you're amongst the people who your parents did not send you as a child to learn and memorize Quran, with all due respect, stop whining, learn now. Right? Stop complaining. Okay? Enough of the excuses. Just learn that. Because subhanAllah, I've seen so many people, they get discouraged because of this. They get so intimidated. And some of the brothers know, right? We have halaqah in Miri. We have these classes in Miri. And we always start, because people always come late, right? That's another problem. When it comes to Islamic classes, punctuality is a mushkila. And then, but in the beginning, while accommodating for this punctuality mushkila, we recite Quran and just to wait for them to come and we correct each other. And over the weeks, right, less and less people come early. And I found out later on, like apparently a few people purposely don't want to come because they feel intimidated. They get corrected all the time. This is a problem. This is a problem. I mean, I advise them, like, don't have this kind of mindset. Like, the reason why we're doing this is for us to improve. It's not like we're super shuyukh. We all admit that in day one. We are not shuyukh. We are not even ustads, right? But we
must have a ikhlas intention, a pure intention to learn the Quran, not just for the sake of coming or gather with friends, right?
Yes.
Anyone correct you, I think it's a good Yeah, it's a
It's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, subhanallah.
So,
There's a
don't
quote
take it
from
wrong.
Ibn al-Jawzi about this. From the sign of somebody who has ulul himma, high aspiration, is that he is content with having a low position in this dunya. That's very deep.
Mashallah.
That's very deep. So, we actually, to be honest, right? We have this mindset when it comes to dunya. I've seen people who are like 50, 60 years old, then they're starting their first year bachelor's degree. They don't have that problem.
Yes.
They don't have that kind of like, oh, what is this? I'm mixing with kids. No, they have that genuine, sincere intention to learn. So it's okay. You don't have to have that problem. I know also grown-ups in the adults, I've heard then they start doing their high school certificates. That's life. It's okay.
And that in that situations, they are usually proud of it. Like, oh, I'm an elderly person, but I still want to achieve some degree. So that's
Just
something
to-
that they're proud
just-
of usually.
Maybe
Yeah, just to share an
some-
experience.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry. So just to share an experience that during my younger days, my father actually he received his diploma from UITM. Back then it was known as ITM. I think it was in the mid 80s to late 80s. So when my parents they already have us, me and my two sisters. So my dad decided.
After all your siblings are already born, then
No, not all. Three out of four siblings.
Oh,
Yeah.
mashallah.
So that was in around 1997, 1999. So I remember having, once in a while having phone calls with my dad who's away in KL, right? And then in 1998 or 1999, my father decided to bring us, my mom and my kids, my mom and her kids, us, to Shah Alam with him to stay. And then I remember having some nights where my father and his friends and his classmates come over to the house to study for exams or to make assignments, to do assignments together.
Right.
And I remember I noticed that why are these people much younger than my dad, right? They are so much younger than my dad.
Oh,
Mashallah.
Yeah, so then many years later, I found out that yes, my dad, he took his degree. He went to get his degree when he's actually 30 plus years, and his friends were like
mashallah.
21, 22 years of age.
Mashallah.
Mashallah, there you go.
And then during my time in UiTM, that was my dad's time in UiTM, and my time in UiTM was in 2010. I remember having this one classmate. He was almost 40 years old. He was almost 40 years old, but he's doing his degree, and he also has 3 children, and sometimes he brought his children to classes. Yeah, sometimes. So it's like, wow, this is not something many adults would want to do, but it's something that is worth doing because it actually increases your lifestyle, your for the future, for the betterment of your life in general, for the kids and for this is from dunya
it's
perspective.
beneficial, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is for the dunya, the dunya, benefits, worldly benefits, right? But also we see the last one, inshallah. The last one, when we go to Masjid Nabawi, for example, I stumbled upon a friend. I stumbled upon a friend who's maybe 2 or 3 years younger than I am, and he's one of the hufal that I know, who is in my batch. So I saw him. Because I usually see him in a halaqah of hifz halaqah. The halaqah, like a study circle of memorizing the Qur'an. But one time I saw him in a circle in which the teacher teaches how to actually pronounce the letters, the hijaiyah letters, to kids. Some of them like 5, 6 years old, but there he was there. And then after he was done, I was sitting not far from him. So I asked him, why are you here? I thought you were in the halaqah of memorization. So he said, oh, my teacher in the halaqah, the memorization, the hifz halaqah, he sent me here because I have a lot to actually correct in terms of
Mashallah,
tajweed and makhraj.
MashaAllah.
So there's no shame whatsoever. You just go. When your teacher asks you to do, you just go.
Yeah.
And this is the final bit. In the same halaqah, I see a 70-year-old uncle from Pakistan in the same halaqah with the 5-year-old children, bettering their tajweed and makhraj. Subhanallah. So these are the real life examples that we can take inspiration from.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, that's a really good tip. Anyone who goes to Umrah, you will find this scattered throughout Masjid Nabawi, Masjidil Haram. Yeah, you'll see all these circles, right? And they will correct things as basic as a Fatiha. I remember joining it and there were uncles like 70, 80 years old. They were still there. And yeah, they were struggling, but they had this sincere intention to go for it. And this happens every day, by the way. If you want to seek inspiration, look at these uncles.
MashaAllah.
And mashallah, I think like the first story by Syahmi, that one is really like, for instance, sometimes you think that okay, now I'm a bit older, I have a beard, I've studied religion for some years, and now I am bad in tajweed, yeah. But the example by Syahmi, that guy is far superior than myself, yeah.
Yeah, he's 70. If I have to take a guess, he's about 70 years of age from Pakistan.
And you know, sometimes when because I'm in that situation, yeah. So because my tajweed is very poor, so and I have also a brother who friends who are similar tajweed proficiency, and we had to say, eat the humble pie and go back, yeah, to the class where teenagers are in that class, yeah.
Right.
So but one thing that sometimes we just talk about ourselves, like how to keep us motivated. And one thing is just like you have this in your mindset, like you're there. You don't want any 1 cent, one bit of benefit from anyone here. I don't want any benefit from here. For anyone here, I don't want any you don't give me any benefit, neither you make me embarrassed or whatsoever, because I'm only looking for benefit from Allah, not from any one of you here. That's the only thing I'm here. And you're here as well because you know that the Salaf is this. They are people who recite the Qur'an, the people who reads the Qur'an in the best way. So those are my role models. So those are the people I want to be closer to. Not any one of you here. And this teacher is the teacher that can help me with that. I'm going to respect this teacher, and he's the man for the job. And I'm going to give my concentration, my focus, my respect to him.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, MashaAllah.
So get in touch with your why, in other words, right?
And if you really think about it, right, any class at all, even if it's like at a very foundational level, if you listen to it again from the teacher, you might find that you find a benefit in it.
Yeah, you will learn something actually. Yeah,
you learn something. Like for example, the other day I was in the masjid waiting between Maghrib and Isha. The ustad was teaching the qalqalah in Surah Al-Masad. So it's like a reminder, like mashallah. It's like as you said, reminders. It's good for the believers. So don't underestimate any class at all, however simple or basic it is. You'll be surprised how you might find benefit in it.
And sometimes it's only you. Maybe the other guys don't think that way. Maybe the other guys say, wow, mashallah, he's coming for this class at this age. But it's just in your head, true. Perhaps. It's only in your head. You're overthinking things.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, another benefit that about having classmates when you sign up for classes, right, as opposed to just one-on-one. It's one thing I learned from my wife, because she has the Tajweed Academy that she works for. They split according to the levels. So they split sort of like Taekwondo. So they have a white belt class, yellow belt class.
Oh, right.
But girls being girls, they have pink belt.
Okay.
And then they have purple.
Okay. The feminine
brown
colors.
yeah. But of course, the highest is black. So actually, it's very beneficial. And one of the things that they tell the etiquettes of the students is that you have to stay for the whole class, not just for the parts that you recite. So you have to listen to other people who are on the same level as you. And what this does is you get to listen to the corrections of how the ustadha teaches the others. And also this reminds you that person's also struggling. So, that when you hear your classmate improving, it also inspires you to improve. And you see, you also don't realize, this is the thing about growth mindset. When you improve a bit, you don't feel it, but people see it. And you actually teach them also. So there's actually a lot of benefits to having a circle when it comes to learning classmates. So signing up for classes, it has a lot of these habits in one go. It kind of like it has this package thing. And what I love about the system of the academy that she's in is that, of course, when let's say you're in the pink class, and the next one is red. So when your pink classmates upgrade to red, you're like, you have the FOMO, right? So you see, there's a lot of I think, to me, this is something I also read in the book Power of Habit. This is what he calls keystone habits. Keystone habits are habits that give birth to other lots and lots of other habits and also other habits. So this is when your habit of signing up for classes, it has all of these things packaged at once. So even if you and but what the benefit that I want the listeners to extract from this discussion is, even if you don't go to classes, there are individual points from this that can turn to be good habit builders for you. So
Yes.
class is one thing, but you can also institute this kind of system with your friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's also
doesn't have to
another
be
tip.
strictly in a class. It can be, but the principles are there, to implement.
Yeah, that's right.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And also having the benefit of having having to stay in the class and listening to your friends, being corrected with each and every mistake that they make, is that although maybe we don't make those mistakes, but but one day maybe perhaps you will fall into that same mistake, and you are constantly reminded by your friends, like, okay, this I have to pronounce it this way because the
Yes,
teacher
yes,
corrected
yes.
him or her. So you have that ingrained in your head, right? And
Yeah.
similarly, like, not
Beautiful.
only in recitations, like in everything that you undertake, right? Especially in religion, in studying the Sharia, you have to bear patience and forbearance when especially learning the basics. For example, even though you have listened to it like 10, 20 times, but these are some of the advice that the ulamas have given. For example, Sheikh Saleh Al Usaimi, what did he say? He gave a general advice to the students of knowledge. He said, don't never for once be bored with learning, with repeating and learning and revisiting the short matans, the short texts. For example, in maybe in Aqidah we have Thalathatul Usul, and maybe in Fiqh maybe we have Matan Abi Shuja. These are all the books of Fiqh, the books
Small
of
books, right?
small books that actually provide the foundation of our deen, right? So never be bored with that, and just be istiqamah, just be steadfast on this path, to actually have that, be grounded, really grounded inside of you. And don't, when just when you have finished this book, you want to jump straight to the lengthy books, maybe Majmu' Fatawa by Ibn Taimiyyah, for example. Majmu' Fatawa, it's like like more than 10 volumes of books, right? No, just have that, just keep on repeating the short ones, the short texts. And similarly, just be in that circle, and if your friends are corrected, you yourself, take that as a lesson, lest you fall into that same mistake in the future, right? So these are the things that we have to be. I guess what I'm trying to say is, have that patience. Learning is never easy,
Yeah, true.
right?
Yeah.
The Salaf, they say, one the prior predecessors, they say, لا يستطيع علم براحة الجسم أو كما قال, like the knowledge will not be able to you will not be able to gain knowledge with a body that is relaxed. Yeah. So you need to have this growth mindset, like Brother Faisal say, and also have this patience and perseverance. And yeah,
Yeah, be optimistic. I want to remind
be optimistic.
everyone, all of you, don't feel that Quran is not for me. I mean, seriously, you can do it. You have what it takes. You all meet minimum requirements. One of the beauty of having my wife work in the Tajweed Academy, she knows a lot of sisters who have graduated and where they are from. So one particular example that stood out for me was a revert sister from Korea. I think she's a revert, if I'm not mistaken. So in the Korean tongue, it's very difficult to pronounce a lot of letters in Arabic. It's tough. So it knows zero Arabic, but within, I think, like 2 years, I think, very short time, she's already black level. She's already
MashaAllah.
she's already better than so many more people who are born Muslims I know in reciting Quran. So she can do it, but of course she was consistent, she studied. But the point is that you don't have to, anywhere you are, you can be good at it. And there's another example. Maybe we can talk about memorization after this. The scholar Omar Sulaiman Al-Ashqar, who wrote the books on Aqidah.
Yeah. I've heard of him.
Some here. Yeah, but it's brown, it's gray in color. Anyway, his mother was illiterate, couldn't read or write until she was 70 years old. Right? She couldn't read any Arabic or write any Arabic until she was 70 years old. And then she learned how to read and write. The first thing she did was memorize Qur'an. 70 years old. 70 years old, my friends. She memorized the whole Qur'an by the time she was 75 years old.
MashaAllah, 5 years.
5 years. So, what excuse do you have? Come on, guys. Korean who knows zero Arabic and a 70-year-old who doesn't know how to read or write at all before that can do it. You can.
I believe the head of Imam of Masjid Nabawi, Sheikh Ali Abdul Rahman Al-Hudhayfi, right? He became a hafiz when he was like 30 something years old. Like when you're a hafiz, people usually see that you're 7 years old or 10 years old, like very young in age.
Right.
To be a hafiz is great. But this Imam, the head of Imam of Masjid Nabawi, he memorized the Quran when he was like 30 or 40 years of age.
Oh, mashallah.
Yeah, even we have a doctor, right? Who I couldn't remember his name. He started memorize after he graduated. Just for how many years? Now he's an imam and a doctor at the same time.
MashaAllah.
Actually, somebody I knew, Amir's cousins. Okay, it's gonna be different. Amir's cousin's wife's parents. The mother, right? So Amir's. This is so difficult. Okay, Amir's cousin's mother-in-law.
Yep. That's
Okay,
right.
all right. Alhamdulillah, I did it. Anyway, so Amir's cousin's mother-in-law just memorized the Quran recently, right? The whole Quran.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, there you go.
Subhanallah.
And even when my own parents, subhanallah, like my mother, before she retired, she memorized the Surah Al-Kahf. She was a
Mashallah.
university professor. She was busy. I know how busy she is, but she can memorize Surah Al-Kahf. And a few years later, my father memorized Surah Al-Kahf when he was 62 years old. Surah Al-Kahf is not it's short surah. It's 12 pages. But subhanallah, they can do it. And they only started when during that age, only within this 50, 60 years old. So here's the lesson, right? Again, if you didn't have the childhood upbringing of memorize, not it's being sent to a Hafiz school or memorization, same. All of us are the same. I was also like that.
Yes.
Right? So with all due respect, stop whining, start now. Because we can achieve so much, but we look down on our own capabilities, but we can do it actually. So just put your effort into it and get started, inshallah.
Start with the short surahs. Start with the short ayats.
Yeah.
I know some of
Do it for yourself. Don't do it for others.
Yes.
And do it for yourself. Exactly. I love that point.
Yes.
I know many out there, maybe the only surah that they memorize is maybe Al-Fatiha and Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Because I know these people, and there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that, brothers and sisters. Just start with the surah that is similar in length. Maybe you have memorized Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Then memorize a shorter surah than that. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar is very very short. It's the shortest surah in the whole of the Quran, right? If you haven't memorized it already.
Yeah.
So start with that. So once take it in bite sizes. Just don't take it. Don't just straight away jump yourself into wanting to memorize Al-Baqarah, for example. No, you just go for it. I know you are very inspired. You are very pumped, excited. With all these, brothers, mashallah. For example, Brother Faisal, he has memorized a lot of the Quran. So, but take
you even more.
Like what I say.
But start small. Just focus on Juz Amma first. This is the practical tip that I want to give. Start with Juz Amma. Not even Surah to Naba. No, just start with the last 10 the last 10 surah.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah. But how do you find, like in your day, right? Where do you find the time, and where is the best time to memorize? From
the best time to the best time to memorize. I know people have been saying this, but I experienced it for myself. Is actually before Fajr or after Fajr, or both.
Okay.
These are the times you can. But before Fajr, when if you have the time, you can do your night prayer, right? So one of the things you can do is doing the revision of the surah that you have memorized the previous day or maybe 2 days
Yes,
before.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the things you can
Mashallah.
do.
Yeah, so when you
Because
memorize a short surah, then you can practically apply it in your sunnah nawafil prayers, right? Because it's easy to recite.
yeah,
Because if you recite, when you memorize a long surah, sometimes you can, where do I start? Do I start at like ayah number 50, ayah number 70? So you have this dilemma, right? But if you start with a short surah, like 2 rak'ah, easy. Like you can memorize it, you can revise it all the time.
yep,
Mashallah.
yeah,
And in the mornings, your mind is like clear, fresh, and
that's
you
right.
don't have any clutter of whatever needs to be done in the day. So this is the perfect time actually. And there's a lot of barakah in the morning as well.
But
yes.
even
And
though
Yeah.
morning is the best time, but maybe some of us we don't have the time in
True.
the morning,
Yeah.
right? So
Good point.
you just try to memorize one verse.
yeah,
the
that's a
whole
good
Throughout
point.
the day.
You
That's
just
a good point.
read before you drive, when you
Okay.
wait something, when you do
Yeah.
before your ideal time, you just read that one particular verse that you want to memorize, and tomorrow you memorize another verse. That's what I
Yes.
do.
It's
Yeah.
interesting point
And I
because
guess
you just focus on that one single verse throughout the day, and therefore by the end of the day, inshallah, you will have memorized that, and that's in the
Subhanallah.
mentality of the growth mindset and small steps being in the end big impact.
Yeah. Just to summarize what Aziz is saying as well, I have this point. Integrate the whole memorization routine into your daily life. You see, a lot of people think that memorization is you sit down with the rihal, right? And then you like, look at the qibla. No, it doesn't have to be like that. Personally, for me, it's difficult. I cannot like, sit down for too long. My feet gets numb very quickly. I'm the kind of guy in Jum'ah, he's always like,
Same.
because his feet are numb. So anyway,
Changing
what I...
legs.
Huh?
Changing legs.
Yeah, changing feet all the
Yeah.
time, right? So what I do is I try to integrate like memorizing, repeating while I'm doing other things. So you can do it while you're gardening, you can do it while you're doing house chores, you can do it while you're cooking. And for me personally, the best time to do it is while taking a walk. Because you see, taking a walk has very low mental requirements, right? You're just walking, right? So your mind is free to be filled. The best time to do it is walking. And in fact, how my parents did it is through walking. They have this habit after Fajr, they immediately go out for a walk in their apartment. And that's how they do it. They just keep on repeating the surah again and again and again. And before you know it, Surah Al-Kahf.
In the apartment,
before you
as
know
in
it.
as in the house.
In the apartment compound, in the compound.
Okay. So
Yeah, so you can do that. Just take a walk. In fact, personally for me, how I memorize the longer surah, because it requires commitment, and how you want to do it, I have to schedule time to take a walk just to memorize Quran.
yeah,
My purpose
mashallah.
of taking a
okay.
walk is to memorize Quran.
Okay.
And I know a
Throwing-
friend. Sorry.
Yeah, throwing two birds with one stone lah. You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
the health benefit as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
You increase your stamina. Because
Yeah.
when you walk and you're reciting, you can people can get a bit of out of breath, but that actually is good for your stamina.
Yeah, that's also another way of putting it. Yeah, I know a
Yeah.
friend. He has this habit of memorizing while he's driving, and this friend is actually Amir's cousin again. He stays in Shah Alam and he works in KL, so he has to go through the Federal Highway. Now, the Federal Highway has another nickname for it in Malaysia. It's called the world's longest car park. The traffic is really, really bad. But this guy uses it to his unfair advantage. He uses that time to memorize. And he memorized Surah Al-Baqarah all throughout his commuting time on the Federal Highway.
Subhanallah. Yeah.
Inshallah.
And I think he managed, one of the years, he managed to memorize 2 juz in that 1 year. All
Inshallah.
because using that traffic jam. People are stressed, like, oh, come on, move. But he's like, Alif Lam Mim, MashaAllah. Yeah, you can do that, man. So this is one tip that I realize people don't do as much as they should. Integrate it in your daily life, like while you're doing other things. And you see there's a lot of barakah to this. When your family in the household listens to this, then they also like, oh wow, this is a big thing, So they also want to have that, that FOMO thing again.
Yeah,
Right? So this also builds an interest for the whole household.
And one thing, benefit if you have kids.
Yep.
I try to memorize Surah An-Naba. I always just read it out of nowhere, doing lay down, doing the chores. And what I found out that my son was 5 years old that time.
MashaAllah.
He memorized it just by
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to
From
me.
listening to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how my daughter memorized Suratul Fajr from because my wife and I keep on reciting it, and
MashaAllah.
without us even paying attention too much. And the next thing you know, she memorized Surah Al Fajr with the tajweed that we have, like because we also learn tajweed. This is some kindergartens, right? When they teach the children this, by the way, this is a side note. Uh, when they teach children surah, right? The teachers, many of them, unfortunately, they are not really good in tajweed and makhraj, so they just throw anything that sounds similar to that makhraj, the hard ones, like Brother Faisal said, like val, tha, right? Tha becomes sa,
Yeah.
val becomes za, stuff like, right?
Yeah, right.
So your children will memorize that surah, alhamdulillah, but with this kind of tajweed. So this goes back to our first question again, like prioritize the things that you wanna do, right? So tajweed goes first, and then maybe you can memorize. But this is just a side point because Brother Aziz, he mentioned about kids, right? So I can't help but to say it. I can't help but to say it
mashallah.
because it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is a really good point. See, when
Yeah.
the children will always look up to the parents as role models, right? So when you repeat something
Yeah.
and show them it's something that's important, they will also pick up to that. So that's why I also learned about my son. Like when it's so funny. Like one day, right, he was just taking a bath. You know how kids, right? They're bath and they'll sing stuff, whatever they have in their heads, right? So one day
Yeah.
he was in the bathtub and he was like, Tabat yada abi lahabim wa tab.
Hey.
And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? You never showed me you knew that. Like, ma agna. So I'm like, do I tell him to keep quiet because he's bathing in the toilet? So that's
Yeah.
another issue. But it amazed me because we never kind of pounded it again and again.
Yep.
It's just like,
Yep.
because if you do it regularly enough, they just pick it up. So
MashaAllah.
I don't know, man. I just so amazed by how much children have this sponge thing. We have to repeat things like 40, 50 times. But to them, they're like, they play their trucks and play their toys. And then next thing you know, they can recite it better than you.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
And just to add on that point, inshallah, about if you do have the time to sit down and memorize Quran, I found a tip from my wife, which I found very helpful.
Yep.
She got it from a book. I don't know. I don't remember which books because she reads a lot of books, way more than I do. So one of the books that she read from, it's about the journey of a hafidhah, a Quran reciter, a woman Quran reciter. So she said in the book that actually the best way to memorize the Quran is maybe first of all you are aware with the things that how much Quran can you memorize during one sitting. So for example, for her, she could memorize 2 pages or 3 pages. Wow. So those 3 pages, she reads it from the Mus'haf. The Mus'haf is the Quran, the book, the Quran that you have, right? Reads it 6 times. 6 times. You look at it. For me, personally, the maximum I can go with this technique is 1 page, or the best is half page. So let's say I want to memorize a surah, so I take half a page of the Quran, and I just repeat the half of the page for 6 times by looking at the Mus'haf. That's number 1. After the 6, I try to memorize it. I try to recite it from memory 4 times. And after you finish 4 times, you do it again 4 times. So 8 from memory. And finally, 6 times, the last 6 times you recite that that Quran, that page for 6 times, but you refer back to the Mus'haf. So it's 6, 4, 4, 6. 6, 4, 4, 6. So I tried that just one day. Let's just give this a try. So I tried that. Alhamdulillah, there was during Fajr. After Fajr, I commit to that, to doing that, to practice that tip, right? And Alhamdulillah, until today, I still memorize that page that I memorized during that sitting, that one sitting.
MashaAllah.
So yeah,
Hadith
so
number 6446.
6446, yeah. Not 666, 6446.
Okay. Oh, that's really good. MashaAllah.
That's really good. I
Okay,
need to
maybe-
repeat 33 times.
Yeah, for me, the number is 40. Yeah, yeah.
30 or 40.
Yeah.
One verse, and then if I want to, I will repeat it tomorrow, half 15, and for 30 or 40 for a new verse. So I can marry them. And then I will-
MashaAllah.
Nice.
Mashallah.
Very good.
InsyaAllah.
Maybe just one simple tip from me. Try to find accountability partners and groups of friends to do it with you. So definitely, okay, number one, some people might say my wife, which is okay, alhamdulillah, it's great. Spouse is good, but in practice, it's why for the people in your household, it's like it's so easy to say, busy lah today, tomorrow lah, and then it will happen. But if it's somebody outside who made time for you, you're like, oh, okay. I have to be a bit more serious about this, right? So I found that the rule of thumb here is like 3 to 9 people is a really good number. Actually, I think about 5, 6, 7. I think that's a really nice sweet spot. Because if it's too many, people will just disappear without notice. They can go on anyway. You know, that psychology, right? So this is something that, just to share with the listeners out there, this is something we did back in Miri. I really miss those days. We got together and memorized Qur'an. We are like, it's just simple things, you know. You just get together, 1 hour. My rule is like, phones are off or phones on airplane mode. Because you don't want to be memorized.
Right?
What?
Use mushaf.
Yeah, and use a mushaf, exactly. Right? And just memorize for 1 hour, that's it. Just 1 hour. It doesn't matter if it's 1 line, 2 lines, 2 pages, 3 pages, just 1 hour. After 1 hour, we pair each other up, you check each other's recitations. So some people, mashallah, they can get 1 page within 1 hour. You'd be surprised how much you can really achieve within 1 hour. Some people get 3 lines. Fantastic. Next week, 3 lines again. Next week, 3 lines again. And subhanAllah, when we do this kind of things, right, when you do it consistently, you will realize that people can get so much memorization done. But it's just 1 hour per week. It's not that much. But it gets so much benefit from it. I miss it, man. Should we do it again? I think we should. We should do it over Zoom or something like that, right? But yeah, subhanAllah, I memorized so much from that initiative. And that I think I put like all these kind of rules, like, okay, you have to memorize twice without making a single mistake. You make 1 mistake, you have to go back to the beginning. So the social pressure was on, right? So yeah, this is a simple thing that doesn't really require that much knowledge. As long as people have a basic level of tajweed, then inshallah you can check each other. And even use that opportunity to check each other's tajweed also. So simple things you can do.
That's great.
Inshallah. So, brothers, I think we've touched on so much on how we can build a relationship with the Quran. MashaAllah, all are amazing points, and we hope that it can inspire first and foremost us and also the listeners of we should build a relationship with the Quran, and there's methodologies, there's ways to go about it, and perhaps if we internalize it, we practice it in a small step, and we inshallah we can implement that in our daily life. So just to wrap things up, inshallah, let's go with the brothers for any last advice or last words regarding how we can build a relationship with the Quran. So we'll start with brother Syahmi.
I'm like Faisal, Faisal in the start of the podcast. Like
Tables have turned.
Yeah. So
Caught you by surprise, is it, Aki?
yeah. So let me gather my thoughts. Or maybe Amir can start first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. MashaAllah. So I just want to close with a quote by Ibn Mas'ud. Yeah. So he say, when you approach this book, the noble Quran, Quran Karim, don't read it like you're throwing sands or like you are reading a poem. Yeah. So where you want to go through it quickly. Yeah. But stop at every verse. Invest your intention in it. Ponder upon its meaning. And most importantly, it's about understanding it, and it's not about reaching the end. Yeah. So that's the focus that the companions always emphasize, which is for you to have a proper understanding of the Quran and then subsequently implement it. Even though for you to actually reach that level, it it's a building block. You have to start with recitation. You have to start with hafazan. It's an ongoing process. It's a learning process, and you just have to be disciplined enough to keep on following it. Yeah, but that's the primary intent that we all of us want to do. Yeah. So that's all I have for today. And mashallah, thanks a lot, brothers. I think I learned so much from all of you.
MashaAllah, barakallah fikum. Likewise, Akhi. So let's go with Brother Aziz, inshallah.
People cannot see, but Aziz is like pointing the other guy.
I see.
Because I thought it's Zuhur for Syahmi, right? Okay.
No worries. It's not no worries because the house to masjid is just 2 minutes drive.
MashaAllah.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, there's one benefit of memorizing the Quran, and at the same time you read the translation. I just want to share one of my story last Ramadan. Remember that we mentioned about Surah Ar-Rad, verse 28, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, by the zikr, remembrance of Allah, the heart would find rest, right?
Yeah.
So if I can remember, this was last Ramadan. I was reading about our brothers or sisters, Muslim in Palestine, Syria, and other countries has been oppressed by the kuffar. It seems like they can't do anything, right? I mean, the oppression is so great that you feel sorry for them. And we have our brothers there who are afflicted by maybe black magic or sihr, and you cannot do anything about it. They feel that no police would how to say, tangkap this ahli sihir.
They
would nap them.
They won't be judged in this worldly court.
Because perhaps there's no legislation for that, right?
Legislation for that.
Yeah.
So
True.
So that makes me think to myself that when will this oppression will end? And you know, we know that in the akhirah they will be punished, and but sometimes we think about this. Sometimes how would this happen? And then on the night of during Tarawih, because we cannot we cannot pray at the mosque during MCO. So I was reciting Surah Mutaffifin. Yeah, when I reached the verse 34 through 36, I was kind of stuck, and my tears flows. And after Tarawih, my son asked, "Baba, why are you crying?" So the verse was فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ هَلْ ثُوِّبَ الْكُفَّارَ مَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. So the meaning is, but on that day, the believers will laughing at the disbelievers. You see the rest that Allah give us in the heart when we hear the ayah. And the believers will sit on a canopy couch and look at the disbelievers who oppress us.
Wow. This is the ultimate last laugh, isn't it?
MashaAllah. and the last one is the believers will be asked, have the disbelievers not been paid back for what they have do? MashaAllah. That was so comforting. I think that's why we need to really have the relationship with the Quran. MashaAllah. So having a relationship with the Quran, I think, is the biggest nikmah from Allah. And to have the relationship, we have to work for it. Just like your marriage relationship, right? Or any other relationship at work or with your friends. It's you need to work for it. It's a commitment. It needs hard work and effort, and it doesn't come naturally. So I would like to end my conclusion with one quote from the book Way to the Quran by Quran Murad. It says, "Thank Allah at every step of your journey for having had time for the Quran, for reading it correctly, for memorizing it, for every meaning you discover in it, for having been enabled to follow it. Gratitude must also be transformed into deeds." So, and of course, so one way to show our gratitude to Allah is by having a relationship with His Word, which is the Quran.
Yeah, mashallah.
Come, let's start.
Yes.
Yeah, let's start.
Mashallah.
Love it, mashallah.
Barakallah fiqh. Okay, Syahmi.
Okay, so I just want to end with one hadith, because mashallah the brothers have brought forth plenty of great gems. So inshallah I just want to end with this hadith. Many benefits we can achieve. There are many benefits that we can achieve by having a relationship with the Quran, by memorizing it, by learning it, by just simply by reciting it. But one of the things that one of the greatest benefits for me and for all the Muslims that they can attain, inshallah, is this. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, اقرأوا القرآن فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه. Right? Read the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, read the Quran, because the Quran will come to you on the day of judgment as a shafi', or someone who give, or someone who will give, what was the word in English? Shafa'ah in Malay, we call it shafa'ah.
Intercession.
Yes, intercession. Yes, the Quran will come as an intercessor for you. And subhanallah, how many of us can guarantee that we are not in need of any intercession? Even the Prophet ﷺ, he will be the intercessor that will actually kickstart the whole hisab process, right?
So, maybe to draw a real world analogy, even if you want to get a job, sometimes you need somebody to intercede for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
recommend you, right?
Yeah. Who has the audacity to say that we are not in need of intercession? We need every possible intercession that we can on the day of judgment. So the Quran will be hujjatun laka, will be the hujjah for you. In other words, will be the intercession for you if you have this relationship with the Quran. You read it, you memorize it, and most importantly, you act upon it. So this will be the greatest takeaway from having that relationship with the Quran, right? So again, read it, memorize it, and learn from the scholars about the meanings, and ultimately acting upon it and share it with others, inshallah. So in order for us to get that shafa'ah, or that intercession from the Quran. So that's all from me. Barakallahu fikum.
Fikum barakallah. Akhi Faisal.
Okay, inshallah. So I really like that point that Aziz mentioned, is that your relationship with the Quran is basically your relationship with Allah. That's because the Quran is the kalam of Allah. This is the word of Allah. So there's a quote that I want to bring, just to put the analogy of an athlete once again. What you do outside the court affects what happens in the court, in the game. Right? So, okay, imagine for an athlete, right? If your diet is poor, it's going to appear in the court. If you have problems, personal problems, emotional issues in your personal life, it's going to appear in the court. Likewise in the Quran. If you have a problem in your iman, it's going to affect your performance in the Quran. So there's a very good advice from Waqi' to Imam Shafi'i. There was one time where Imam Shafi'i was suffering difficulties in his memorization. So it wasn't as photographic as it used to be. By the way, his suffering is his suffering memorization is better than all of us actually. So he was complaining that it wasn't as great. So Waqi' advised him to abandon sins. Why? Because knowledge is a light, is a nur. And the nurullah, the light of Allah, will not guide the person who is a sinner. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So if we are people who are sinning in our day-to-day lives, not necessarily while we are reciting Quran, but in our day-to-day dealings, we are continuously disobeying Allah, this will affect your ability to learn the Quran, to memorize the Quran, to understand the Quran. So if you struggle in this, it could be a reminder to you that you are doing something wrong with your life. You have to change some aspect of your life. So like shaitan tries to trick you into feeling that you're useless, right? That you cannot do this, but it's not true. The reality is that there are certain things that you may be able to fix for you to be able to improve your relationship with the Quran. Right? So we know even Allah describes the Quran as nur. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ نُورًا مُبِينًا. As Allah says in Surah An-Nisa 174, we have revealed to you a clear light. Right? So this Qur'an, this light cannot enter the heart of a sinner. There's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says that if you commit a sin and you don't repent from it, then it's going to leave a black spot on your heart. The more sins that you commit, the more your hearts will be covered. So when your heart's covered, you know how like the windows, right? Your windows at home, if you don't clean it for a long time, it gets dusty, right? Even a bright day, your room's not going to be very bright.
Yes.
Can you imagine that kind of imagery? So
Yeah.
that likewise, our hearts are like that. So if we are not repenting from our sins, maybe it's going to block that means from the Quran entering our hearts. So all of us, we need to have this introspection. And you have to remember, this is the scary part. Allah says in Surah Al-Isra about the Quran, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that we have revealed the Quran as a healing and a mercy for the people of Iman, the believers. Okay, so on one hand, it's a healing and a mercy. But Allah says, وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. But those who commit oppression, the more they recite Quran, it makes them even more in loss. You know what I mean? So this is scary, you know. Quran doesn't benefit everyone. It's only the people of Iman and taqwa will benefit from it. Remember the ayat that we quoted, Syahmi quoted earlier, Hudan lil muttaqin? Only the people of taqwa will find it as a guidance. The people who have an inherent problem in their hearts, if they have kufr in their hearts, the more they recite Quran, the more disobedient they will be, the more errors they will find in the Quran, the more they will dislike the Quran. This can happen to people. That's why the Quran is like a criteria. It reveals your true self, right? So
Inshallah.
this is a reminder for us that, you know, and of course, if you are amongst those people, don't despair. Don't allow shaitan to put these negative thoughts in your head and say that, yeah, I've been reciting Quran, but it doesn't have any benefit. Well, now you know that you have a solution to it, right? You can improve yourself, and the more you improve yourself, the more Allah opens up the door for the Quran to enter your heart. So if you call part 1, we emphasize a lot about abandoning music, right? So that's one of the ways. So the more you abandon things which Allah dislikes, the more the light of Allah will enter your heart. Inshallah.
Right. Whatever you leave for the sake of Allah, Allah will inshallah replace it with something better, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Mashallah.
amazing. MashaAllah. Barakallah fikum. I think the brothers have taken all my points. So I know how it feels now to be last. I guess I'll just mention one, perhaps one point of benefit. We've mentioned so much about the hows and the whys, and perhaps for some, it might be an overload of information. And it's like, where do I start? You know, there's so many levels, there's so many branches of knowledge regarding the Quran. But just remember, I just want to bring to the attention that what Allah says in Surah Al-Qamar, ayah number, the first ayah actually. Not remember. I don't recall what ayah is this. Okay, so it's وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So we have certainly made the Quran easy for remembrance. So is there any who will remember? So in this ayah, Allah mentions that He promises that He makes the Quran easy for remembrance. So whatever is connected to the Quran in regards to recitation, the memorization, Allah, if you strive and you have the sincere intention and you prepare well, inshallah, Allah makes it easy for the ones who wants to seek the truth and reflect on the Quran and implement it in their lives. So just reflect on this ayah. If you feel discouraged at all, know that Allah has promised that the Quran has been made easy for us. It's just that we have to make the effort, inshallah.
Just side note, Reza, that ayat actually is repeated a few times in that surah.
All right, okay. That's why I couldn't find the number.
Yeah, it's ayat number 17.
Okay,
17 and a few times after that. So
Mashallah.
imagine if Allah repeats something, it shows that it's seriously like pay attention to this.
Yes.
And by the way, just a side note, this is what makes the surah a bit difficult to memorize, because you have to memorize the word.
There's no reference point.
Yeah. That's right.
MashaAllah. May Allah make it easy for us to memorize, recite, implement, and learn about the Quran. So MashaAllah, I gained a lot of benefit from today's discussion. And
Same here,
Jazakumullah
mashallah.
khairan again for the brothers for all the sharing. And we hope also the listeners that you will also gain benefit and this will inspire you to kick on, to make the Quran as a companion in your life, as a one of the main things in your life that you never do without. So with that, we'd like to end the discussion, and we hope everyone benefited from it. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jazakumullah khairan and thank you for listening. If you found benefit in this episode, please do share it with others, as that will greatly support us and enable the message to be shared with the rest of the world, inshallah. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions, comments or feedback, please do get in touch with us at our social media pages at Facebook and Instagram. Barakallahu feekum.